Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. We are recapping this week's episode of Potomac. Still think we're in a bit of a struggle phase. I do think my prediction on this season is going to be correct. We start off too, just nothing like a good old cringe like painting date where I'm sure it's one of these kits you buy or whatever, but it was weird like it not being in like more of an artistic setting. They're just like doing it in their living room.
Yeah, that's something no one would ever do. Let's be real. Unless you both legitimately have artistic abilities. But in my free time when I'm away from my kid, the last thing I'm thinking, hey Kyle, do you want to just draw each other and see how fun that is? Like, no, no
And
one's
to your
doing that.
Yeah, and to your point, like if you're very artistic, then yeah, this could be cool. But if you're not, it's going to be really weird. Neither painting was good. It was kind of like, and we also kind of already did this when we did Karen's, her triple 20 party in Austin where everyone painted um stuff that reminded them of Karen. I don't know. I feel like we've like been down this road. So we quickly, I guess we got Stacy got some screen time though, so good for Stacy. Then we jump over to Ashley's where she is having a gathering of just the OGs, and we've got Ashley, Karen, and Gizzy sitting down, wanting to talk with Karen. I think they felt a little guilty. For maybe not sticking up for her as much and like Norman, or not like necessarily like it felt like there was a little sense of guilt, but also a sense of like, um, what the hell's going on, Karen? And she really didn't give him too much.
No, she hasn't given us much in that regard this season. Like, let's be real. I did giggle at Ashley's assortment of popcorn and croissants and how Giselle was like quick to call that out. I do love a random, assortment of snacks, but she just like threw it together. So I did find that funny. I was not expecting Karen to continue to double down on the opioid addiction. I'm saying in quotations, and then production then going to the clip, which you have a note here. She's taking a sliver to truth, and like reinventing the story, the narrative here based on that clip. I mean, if she has more receipts to prove what she's saying, that she had an addiction and went to rehab, fine. But the way it's presented in the clip is that she had a C-section. Which I've had a C-section. I never take the narcotics. That's just a personal preference. I normally take the Tylenol. I mean, I'm sure vaginally, I don't know if they offer
You
that
get
to you as well,
They
but
do, yeah.
I always personally take the Tylenol because it's enough for me. But she kind of got hooked and then had overdosed and got hospitalized. Am I saying this correctly? As I'm
Yes.
saying it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but she had overdosed, then, decided to, that was a strong pivot. I feel like it was a little bit of reach on her part from that story than to be like in chiropractic care. It's like holistic. But whatever, you do you. You got to
She
market
was
your
Yeah.
place.
She found a new
And
way
that's
to
how she sold it.
yeah, to manage her pain. I feel like too the way Karen said it like Norman implied that she was, I mean, that's why she started her business, because she wanted opioids. And it was like almost like as if she was like getting chiropractors who legally can't even write you a script, but it's like almost like as if she was like getting into the medical industry to illegally obtain opioids, which isn't what happened. Yeah, I mean, this is a Bren and Karen are kind of headed down a slippery slope here with the misrepresentation of the truth. I will say I was relieved that at least there was a sliver of truth to it, and that this wasn't something that Karen
Like
either
made up.
made up or Mia shared to her in extreme confidence and it was being, blown up. The fact that it is on YouTube and she did talk about it, but I feel like now Mia originally said in her confessional before they cut to like the YouTube video where we got the longer interview clip, uh she said she was exposed to opioids, or she like took opioids at a young age. Now, then we learned she was pregnant. She still could have been pretty young, but I guess I more took it as like, oh, we know she had a really hard upbringing. Was this something that like maybe, when her mom had abandoned her, like, was she a child, at this point? And then you'd be like, wow, Karen, this is really terrible. But I do think like, I mean, her story I did take the painkillers. Like I like was like willing to like have them after I delivered. I didn't end up using all of them, but I just think, like I could see it being like if you, especially if you went through a particularly painful C-section, if that is like the only way you feel like the pain is being managed, that you could get addicted to it. And good for her for finding another way and for overcoming it. I do feel like Karen kind of highlighted more of like the negative and made it sound like this was some deep dark secret and she's secretly still taking them and she's the one that needs rehab, when it's like, well, however the story came to be and whatever your take is on holistic medicine, it worked for Mia, and
Absolutely.
that's why she's so passionate about
And at
this.
least she was, honest about it. I do think had Karen said that Mia tends to give so many different versions of stories. We've seen her do this on the show. Like, is G like, we see a clip on the next episode where she said both fathers, and everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. G and ink. So Mia has a tendency of rewriting history, if you will. So if Karen had led with that and said we had a private conversation, it'd be shitty that she aired that out, but I could see that. Either way, we're on the same page. She took some information and ran with it and misrepresented it. And really, it's not like Mia was like strung out on the streets. And there is truly an opioid crisis. Let's be respectful and sensitive to it. She did get the support she needed. Move on.
Yeah, I do think like this. I mean, there's a whole documentary or a Hulu series, Dope Sick. It was a really, really good series that will open your eyes to the whole opioid addiction and how it like became such a big thing. But this is a lot of Karen deflecting. I mean, she did then was like, well, now, Giselle, how are you feeling about Jamal? And you need to pray for a man, and like you need to find a man in your life. I like how Giselle's like, I'm just trying to have fun. I think Giselle's like, look, I am financially independent, stable on my own. My girls are happy. They're grown. Their dad's going to go out there acting a fool, and I'm going to try to, help them through it. And I'm going to be supportive of their father because I'm co-parenting. I don't know if I don't think Giselle wants to remarry. I think she likes companionship. I think
Yeah,
she would like, somebody to hang out with, but I also don't think she wants somebody like living with her 24/7.
I agree with that. I think she's good. I do want to take a moment. So, at the moment when this was filmed, at the time when this was filmed, he got engaged. The wedding has since happened. And with the Wicked promotion going on and then seeing the photos of the weddings, shout out to Twitter, the funny Twitter writers who quickly were like, wait, and how big is the budget for the Wicked film that they have Jamal Bryant in green and his bride is in pink? And I wanna say it's coincidental, but I think it's so exposed in front of me. I'm like, "Is it coincidental?" I'm sure it is. I mean, let's be real. They
I
had
would hope so.
months before
Yeah.
that. They're defying gravity.
Yeah. Age gravity.
Age gravity.
I think she's quite a bit younger, but yeah. You know, I give Giselle a lot of credit because it would be so easy to bash Jamal and to talk negatively of him. And she doesn't. She really not like in certain situations, she will state a truthful fact. It was challenging from the girls because she went from friend to fiance. We skipped the girlfriend step. She didn't say Jamal, has a string of horrible relationships. He's rushing through. Like she just like I think she does a really good job of how she speaks about him. I give her a lot of credit. And I love though that this is classic Grand Dame though. Like, no, 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 we're not going to talk about my legal issues. I am good. What did she say? I talked to my lawyer and I prayed to Jesus. Are we good? Okay. Like it was just
Yeah,
like,
it is pure deflection. I mean, they've been trying. I will give her credit. The women keep going at Karen and asking her, and she holds strong. Like, she's like, I'm only going to repeat the same thing I've been saying to all y'all, and that's it. Which we said this before on a couple episodes, but I think had she even just shown more remorse, it would cut the witch hunt a little bit. Like, they wouldn't feel so obligated to continue to like ask, push and
yeah,
prod because all they want at the end of the day is for Karen to hold herself accountable. And as a Ladam, I want to see that too.
yeah. I think it'd be in her best interest. But so then their gathering ends and we then quickly are with Wendy and her family celebrating their twins graduating out of elementary school. And I do like when Wendy's whole family is together because I think for her, it's such a like it anchors her, her family. But her mom is hilarious. But there are moments where I'm like, okay, Wendy, you need to talk to your mom about what we say and don't say on camera. Again, this is a cultural thing. Wendy even said culturally, this like you take care of like the way she grew up, you take care of your parents. I thought it was kind of like it gave me the ick though when she was like, and my allowance was late. One, it was on camera. Two, like in front of their children. And maybe I just don't get that this is just culturally like totally acceptable and totally like fine. But I was sort of like, Dr. Wendy, go talk to your mom about bringing up the allowance multiple times.
I feel like the word allowance is like what trips me up. I think it's one thing to like financially help. I think depending on parent situation, how they came about in the world, I do think as elder millennials, I do think there's something to taking care of your parents financially versus their health. And that's something that I appreciated hearing that conversation with Wendy and then Ashley. We kind of heard that as well. I think that's something a lot of us deal with, myself included, without going into specifics or details. But I do feel like she could have done without the term
Allowance.
allowance.
Yeah.
It just didn't land well, and then she, like, immediately, like, Venmo'd her, and they showed that, like, it was she Venmo'd her $500, which again, fine, like, whatever works for y'all, but a part of me thinks her mom, because her mom's a bit petty, did it on purpose on camera to,
To get
like,
it.
embarrass her daughter.
Yeah. And to make sure she gets it. Yeah. Well, and she also knows that like the whole concept of like paying your parent, like calling it allowance, it was probably going to be something that was going to be discussed on podcasts like ours and in the comments. And because I agree, like I think supporting your parents financially maybe isn't discussed like a lot, as much as it happens. I know I have several friends who, in one way or another, even like for myself, my mom just wasn't as smart with her money. And so, if we go out to lunch, I always pay for it. And I'll think of a reason why, because she's kind of prideful in that sense. But like there's, it can be little things or it can be as big as you pay your parents' mortgage. Like, and however it works for you. And, I just think, yeah, it'd be different if like I would be very agitated if my mom, especially on camera, was like, you were late on my allowance.
No, I would be
I'd be
pissed.
like, bitch, you should be thankful I'm giving you this
Yes.
allowance. Like I would
Yes.
turn into like, I put a roof over your head real quick. But yeah,
I mean, she didn't react that way. I would love your perspective. So, as they're going on, education's clearly important for 4 degree, Dr. Wendy. And she is basically saying she has trust fund set up for her kids. And she said, and part of your trust fund agreement is that you get a master's degree. And I don't know if she didn't specify whether or not you get the trust fund only if you get a master's or you get more if there's a master's.
I got the impression like you don't get to access your trust until you have a master's.
Which, listen, the thing that I would have loved, and her kids are too young and they shouldn't talk back to her, but I'd be like, what are you doing with your master's degree, mom?
Well,
Like, what are you doing
like
with your 4 degrees? Like, respectfully, like, they shouldn't talk back to her. But I do think, like, education is definitely important. I'm not diminishing education, but I think you're already putting so much pressure on your kids and they're so young. College doesn't work for every kid. There's, people are taking gap years more. Like, it just doesn't look the same as it did for us. Or there's just, I don't know. I think
well, I
socially
think
we're more accepting of it, I suppose, is probably the better way to say it.
well, probably because we were all like, our parents' generation going to college was like a big privilege. Like I have several friends' parents who like their parents are successful, but they did not go to college. Like their family just couldn't afford it and they went on a different path. So I think for like our parents, it was such a big thing to be able to send all of us to college. I think what we're all learning though is it doesn't guarantee that you're going to necessarily be more successful than someone else in a certain career or that you're going to make more money. I think, some of it varies just on natural skill, work ethic, all the things. Also, just traditional college isn't for everyone. Like there's a lot of discussions about how if you went into like if you go to a trade school right now and become like a welder or an electrician, you're going to be starting off making six figures. Where like, I started as a marketing coordinator with a college degree making $27,500 a year. It's like there's a lot of arguments that you could make that like you could potentially be more successful by not going to college, and that there's just different routes for everyone. So I agree. Like I think she should have just focused on I want you to like the importance of education, and whatever it is you choose to do, you won't get to access this trust unless you've obtained a certification, a degree, or something of some
Sure.
sort, because I think the last thing she wants is them to feel like, oh, I have this trust and I can just sit on it. Shaq, who you guys all know if you've been listening for a while, I love Shaquille O'Neal. I have for a very long time. He has a similar rule with his kids. He says 2 degrees before you get the cheese. And it's basically like his kids, like, for the most part, there's no reason why they shouldn't be getting degrees, because financially it's not like, oh, like I would have to take out student loans. I can't afford it. I'm going to graduate in debt. And so he wants his kids to know the importance of education, and not, early on he did it so they didn't just focus on their athletic ability, because his kids, are tall and built more like him. So I mean, I feel like she could have just phrased it a little bit better. Like, I want you guys to know the importance of education. You will not get this trust without some sort of certification, degree, work, because it could be a welder certification. It could be a plumbing
Yeah.
certification. It could be whatever. But I agree with you. It does kind of put this like, you have to go to college and you have to get a master's.
And
And
like, listen, I think it's all great things.
right.
I think there's a lot of counter arguments, and also the kids are like what? How 10?
11.
11,
11.
and like that's going over their head. Like I feel like I'm processing what a trust was in like my 20s, and granted that wasn't anywhere near my vocabulary because I did not grow up in a way where that was even an offer to
People
me.
weren't getting
So
trusts where we were. I
no,
mean,
no.
we grew up in good areas, but yeah, I
But
like,
yeah, it wasn't like a common thing. So anyhow, then we had this conversation with Ashley and her mom, which I do appreciate this vulnerability. I love Sheila and Ashley. I think they have such a great and dynamic kind of mother daughter relationship. Sometimes it feels like sisters, but Ashley's saying, she has a lot more empathy and relates to her more than others. She's a single mom, but she's still like her mom's still with that dick. And knowing that Ashley has a financial provide for her, that's like a sticking point. But again, for all the reasons that we discussed, I just think that's an important dialogue of the stress of taking care of a parent, and
yeah,
also sometimes parenting a parent based on
yeah.
their decisions or relationship decisions. But she's trying to say you are enough and please get out of this. But then we go to the party. I will say I knew we were having a party, that Jazzy was having a party for the Chiefs and for her man. But when they all walked in the room, and I think because she wasn't there, or there wasn't like a banner, it didn't like register for me right away. I had to like think. I was like, wait, what are they at? I had like rewound a few times. I was like, what's going on?
Well, and I was confused too. Yeah, there was no like red and gold. It wasn't like a super, like, I don't know. I feel like I was like, was this just an excuse to have an event? And like, I would think maybe there would be other members of the team there. We did have one, but it was just sort of like, this feels weird. And like half of these women, or not half, almost all these, none of these women really know her boyfriend at all. So it's sort of like, I don't know if you're really celebrating him. I get wanting to include them. There, she's on a show. Like,
Yeah,
you got to give us some scenes. I get that. But yeah, I did feel kind of, I don't know, felt weird. And I also was like, where's the red and gold? I needed a timestamp. Like, was he already traded at this point?
I would think so. Okay, so he had just visited the White House because he mentioned that. So I'm trying to think of like the time frame, but I would imagine he would have been possibly traded. It's possible. I don't know.
Yeah,
Someone
probably
fact check
not
us
if it
there,
was,
but
yeah, not probably not if it was right after the White House. But yeah, he no longer plays for the Chiefs, which is like that's the other thing too. I'm like, is that why she didn't go heavy into like Chiefs theme? But I feel
oh,
like
that's true too. That's true. He also wasn't there at the beginning. Like if someone was throwing a party in my honor, would have like, what do you have to do, bro? Like you put on a nice suit and you show up. Like this is a thing that I hate and seeing in like WAG relationships. And I'm making an assumption here. So if it's not like this and he had like a legitimate excuse, but I feel like because that partner is the athlete and they bring in so much money, like rules and normal things like social cues don't apply for them. Like you just come when you're ready. I
yeah.
don't know. That
Well,
I would be like,
also,
you're coming with me. Like, let's go. Like I'm throwing you this party. It's not a
and maybe
surprise party. It's a party.
and maybe he didn't want to have the party, but she's like, I need to do this. We need to film this scene. If nothing else, do it to support her because you love her. I don't know. I feel like I also felt like he was giving no energy. I felt like
He was sweating bullets. He was really nervous.
he did
Like,
not want those cameras there. Like this.
no, he was sweating. Like that man was sweating bullets. But the women did understand him. They don't understand Stacy. You made a note about this.
Well, I, I'm trying to like look at my note now too with just Stacy in general. I won the way she
Wendy.
the way
Wendy's
she acts.
confessional.
Wendy's confessional to me though was hilarious because so she goes and she was really friendly and nice to him. Like some of the women were like, I understand that you're Stacy's friend, and they were being kind of like shady about the whole like they're not having sex thing. Wendy killed me though, and she was like, I knew right away this is a man that is not sexually active. Like and it was like she didn't need to say anymore. That was hilarious. I think Stacy brought him to prove he's real, but like every time they have a scene together, I'm like, this is not a couple that's like
No.
romantically
And
like
she's like
interested.
doubled down on it. I mean, he was on Watch What Happens Live with the bartender with like a fishnet shirt. Ashley has made comment. She was on Watch What Happens and she was like, they asked about the couple and she's like, well, you saw the Watch What Happens, like speak for yourself. And Teresa was like, they haven't done the nasty
Yeah.
and they've been together for a year. What? Like, I just think I don't care if you're deep in your faith, whatever, but you guys aren't virgins and you were old. Like, I'm sorry, like you were grown adults. Like, I don't understand that personally. Do you?
No.
Okay. That
Well,
was
I
a
just
quick
like,
no.
I
It doesn't
mean,
make sense to me.
I would want if okay, there's a lot of questions. Like, has he been married before? Is he only sexually active once he's married? Like, I would find that hard to believe. Then has he been married like 7 times? I find it hard to believe this is a man who has potentially only had one sexual partner in his entire life. I think to me, he's using it as a deflection. When he said, like, let him laugh, let him make fun of, let him like poke jokes. They're not making fun of you and me. They're making fun of God. Like Stacy's face was even like, bro, like,
No, and like, listen, it's like, it's one thing to be like celibate and have that to yourself to find. I think that's very common. I think you hear people, we heard Jordan from Winter House and Martha's Vineyard, who chose celibacy because she needed a moment. That all makes sense to me. But when you're in a relationship with someone, that part,
and you claim
because I
you
think
love them.
intimacy is such a big part of a romantic relationship. And that part doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever, you do you. She has to live with it, I suppose, not us. So
Yeah. What did you think of Giselle as a mediator? I couldn't help but laugh that this is the role she's found herself in.
It was funny. Literally that interaction was very entertaining and then also very Karen to eventually do apologize to Mia and saying she did go low, but immediately reminded her, if you go low, I'm gonna serve. And and Mia's like, what? And then they started talking about balls and like I was just like, but these are like the fights that like make me laugh where they literally she's just spewing shit that doesn't even make sense. And then Mia's like, well, you're used to old balls. And then she's like, well, you played with balls on you public balls or like whatever. And they're going back and forth. And it just sounds like a fight my kids would have. Like it's just funny. That's funny to me.
Nothing like an apology with a warning. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's like, wow,
Apology, but Gabby
apology,
ate in
but
school of apology. We haven't
and
said that in a minute, but there's no but in an apology.
yeah, I I loved it. It was making me laugh. I'm also like, wow, Giselle, like, look at you. You're not like full on feuding with anybody this season so far. I like this for her. I think she's in a great spot. She was making me laugh at times too, because I'm like, you are totally just trying so hard to get that apology out of Karen. And she finally did it.
And
So
when they got
bravo.
it, they're like, whoa.
She,
But then she, in true Ladom fashion, double down.
then we get to the I did not like this part. I feel like every scene that's going to be filmed with G and Mia, whether ink is there or not, it's just going to make me like sick to my stomach because I feel like the things they say and they throw out there, they have kids and these kids are going to hear about it. Like, I don't think we need to be talking about Mia's abortion
Yeah.
on and I get these people signed up for their lives, but like, I don't also like,
This is
okay, that
too real. This is a
that's too
little
real.
too real. I just think out of the respect for the kids, like mainly, like I will, and Gordon is very upset. He clearly this divorce, all of it is very, very difficult for him as he's made it very clear. But I will give Ink credit of like acknowledging the kids are in the room. Like, I thought you and I were cool. Like, I didn't like they were having that conversation, but I'm glad that it didn't get physical. Like, voices weren't raised. I don't know. I mean, they are grown adults. You should expect that at least. But I didn't like that the kids were in the room next door. I didn't like that they were talking about her abortion and if he didn't know. I didn't like the paternity of Jeremiah. Like, just, ugh. It feels
It
like
doesn't get
private stuff.
Yes, like, this isn't like, "Oh, wow," like, she's really, putting her life out there, and I think it's just for me, it just goes back to, like, these kids, and, like, Jeremiah doesn't need to have his paternity discussed on camera if it hasn't been discussed with him yet. Like, I just
Yes.
feel like, and also, I think they need to decide, like, if Ink really thinks that that's his son and he wants to be able to step in and, like, prove that, one, I'd be like, "Why didn't you do that a while ago? Like, what, why are you coming forward now?" But I guess that is somewhat your right. Then get the paternity test, have that done, figure out what you're gonna do. Like, I don't know, I just feel like some of this, like, Ink and Mia should be discussing this off camera and private, maybe with G. Like, what, so let's say like, we end up proving that that is, Jeremiah's dad. It's Ink. What now?
I sometimes wonder, and I have no idea where they're at in their divorce or their separation. I feel like it's more separation than divorce
Yeah.
right now. But sometimes I wonder if tactically she wants the receipts, like footage of like, hey, look at me trying. Like, I don't know what she's going
Yeah.
to benefit. I don't know that there's like tons of money. He lost a lot of his money. She's like selling her stores. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like what angle do you have here to where you would want to do this. I mean, it sounded like Gordon felt blindsided. He like broke the fourth wall, being like, I don't want to film with you. But
Yeah.
then we see like pictures of them all together.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot.
it's a
I will
lot.
say I do like DJ Apple Juice Box. Is that what
DJ Applebox.
DJ Applebox? I do seem like he seems like a good like person in terms of how he's talking to Mia. Uh, so if he's a good influence on her, good, whatever. But God, guys, you have kids. Please,
I know. I
please.
just that's what I keep thinking about. Also, Mia, for her sake, um, she will likely, I'm guessing, get full custody, or more than just joint. It seems like, if you want to get a little extra money out of G, I know he doesn't have much, but like, proving that one of these kids isn't his means he's now paying you less. I mean, just to kind of look at it from that perspective. I don't know. I don't get what she's trying to do here. I don't get what her end game is. And then seeing the clip for next week where she's like, and both the fathers of my children, like, that to me, and she just said that on purpose. She knew that was getting a reaction from the women.
Well,
That was
and
a slip of
immediately
the tongue.
Giselle like
Yeah.
caught that and was like, fathers. And it's just yucky. And I think everything you mentioned about Ink, like if he wants to do paternity or not, but like if you love this woman, regardless of paternity test, you can, I mean, maybe not be their father, but like be a good presence in their life. And like you
Mhm.
can do that without a paternity test.
For
Like
sure.
you can do all of that. So I don't know.
I know, it's so layered and deep and ugly, and I don't know. I just feel like because there's kids, young kids involved. I just hate that, like, this is gonna be out there. If it were me,
It's such a boundary, right? Like
yeah,
because they don't have a say or an opinion. I mean, they have no
he's
idea.
12. Like,
And he's
I
old
just
enough that kids could find this out and, like, tease him or, like, whatever, and I don't like that.
I mean, I would be shocked if this wasn't something that he's heard about at school, now that it's aired, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. She says she tries, like, shelter them and whatnot, but I'm like,
But you can't shelter the other kids in his class,
"No,
in his
no,
school. Like, I
n
just,
no."
yeah. Hey, not what anybody really wants to be watching, I think. What are your thoughts on Potomac so far?
I'm still enjoying it. I is it, like, a stellar I think it's much better than last season. I find myself laughing. I do think there is too much of a focus on Karen and the DUI. I'm not saying it's not something we shouldn't talk about, but like the countdown to her court date and all that feels a bit like much. But all in all, like I find myself enjoying it and I have no idea what's to come. That's always a nice surprise. So I'm here for it.
All right. Well, before we officially wrap up, we have to give our shout outs for the week. Vanessa, who are you shouting out?
I'm going to give my shout out to all the NICU parents out there. It was World Prematurity Day yesterday. Today is a Monday, but regardless when you're listening to this, it's just this time frame. It's always a reflection moment for me and thinking about my own experience. So if you are a survivor or have a NICU graduate, my heart is with you. If you have one that's currently there, my heart goes out to you even more. Your little one will eventually get out. And if you're looking for resources, and I know this time of year brings out like people's needs and wants to give back. I love March of Dimes. It's a great organization in terms of trying to close the gap in terms of the mortality rate in America with pregnant women and just helping give resources. I will always forever remember my March of Dimes representative while I was in the NICU who came by and brought me like little goodies, little snacks. And also, if I didn't have any sort of resources or needed support, she was there for me if I needed to speak to someone. So I just want to give my love to all you NICU parents.
Well, not quite the same, but keeping with parents, I want to give my shout out to the Bassets. They welcomed little baby boy Jet. I do think that, good old Candace, I think she did this, intentionally to be able to have a baby in privacy. And she seems super happy. Of course, the photo shoot that she did was very her. I don't think there's any other mom out there that's wanting to like hold her baby in the glam chair other than, the Triangle Queen herself, who always was glammed to the tens. But she looks very happy, and congratulations to the Bassets.
No, I just love that she showed, like, of course, she's doing her makeup and like, good on you for having the energy to do that. I did not, but it's
I did.
on brand. I love an on brand moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. She's very on brand. That was very Candace. So congratulations to the Bassets. And we hope we'll be congratulating ourselves and celebrating with all of you. If you haven't done so already, to help us get to our 1,500 reviews, please subscribe, hit 5 stars. If you have 30 seconds, leave us a written review. And as always, we're open to your comments. Keep those fact checks coming. We joke that we got our, we became lawyers through Google. We've become doctors through Google. So joking, obviously. So if we ever say anything that is incorrect or, like a different version of it, slide into the DMs at Real Moms of Bravo or shoot us an email, realmomsofbravo@gmail.com. And with that, make it a great day or don't. The choice is yours.